First, into something that is really unacceptable, just to say it from the very start. And this is the attack on two KTN journalists today at a Machakos High School, a girls' school actually. And it is said that the principal is the one who incited the students to attack these two journalists who are following up on the story of a missing student from that particular school, something that has actually not happened for the first time. It was reported earlier on Citizen of some time back on the same particular issue. Well, this is a response the journalists got, as you can see from Eunice Omolo's story.
Standard Group journalist Boni Magana, Caroline B, and their driver were in Machakos to follow up a case of a student of the St. Stephen's Secondary School who has been missing. But they were instead pelted with stones by the students of the school, an action believed to have been incited by the school principal, Charles Kioko. Their vehicle was also burned. The mother of the missing girl was also attacked by the irate students who were armed with stones. The journalist escaped with serious injuries, but their camera was destroyed. In a statement, the Media Council of Kenya has condemned the attack, saying, quote, "While it is within the right of the school leadership to decline media interviews, it is against the law for anyone to incite and attack journalists who are in the line of duty." End of quote. Media Council of Kenya Chief Executive Officer David Omoyo has urged the police to expedite investigations into the unfortunate incident and bring the culprits to book. According to the mother, the Form 2 girl has been missing since the 4th of March this year. She did not report to school after the midterm break. It is not the first case of students said to have been missing from the school. In June last year, two Form 3 girls from the same school went missing after an alleged brutal beating from one of the teachers in the school. Eunice Omolo, NTV.
And the latest development on that story, and this is from the DCI Kenya handle on Twitter, and it reads, Mr. John Chalo, the principal of St. Stephen's Girls School in Machakos. If you can see the same thing that I'm seeing, we could mirror it right now. In Machakos County, and Miss Mary Mukami, the mother of the missing girl, have been arrested by officers following the attack on journalists. The two suspects will be charged with incitement to violence, among other offenses. Let's get straight to the responses, and we start with Bono Moyo from the Media Council. You've put out response in a statement to this earlier on. Any developments after that besides what we see here from the DCI?
I spoke to the Machakos County Police Commander just as I was walking in, and that's told me that they have arrested the principal. They'll be taking him to court tomorrow. He's in touch with the DPP to get that follow-up so that they can be able to know what cases to charge him with. He also assured me that the mother of the daughter is being held as a witness to seek more information and all that, because I was wondering why they have also arrested a news source, because they were simply accompanying the journalists. But I need to stress that it is in discipline of the highest order for what the principal did, especially inciting very young girls to do that, and simply a trend of impunity, suddenly realizing that if you don't want media coverage, you will just incite girls or anybody to do that. And it points around certain cases that have happened before. We have seen politicians incite crowds against journalists. We have seen county assemblies chase away journalists. We had a case of a school in Western Kenya, I think around Kisii, where there was an outbreak of diarrhea or some disease, and the media went there, and they were beaten and chased out at the instigation of the principal. So there is suddenly impunity on attacks against journalists. People seem to be getting away with a lot of this, yes. And we must act very decisively on this and other cases in order to stop this. Otherwise, it's becoming extremely dangerous to be a journalist in this country. Suddenly, like, it's a crime to be a journalist.
Right.
So unless we come out decisively, this will be very hard. A while ago also, when we were with the Editors Guild, we called the Inspector General of Police, and he assured us that he will get to the bottom of the matter. So I think the secret, or rather trick, is that we must be very decisive and put extreme pressure to make sure that justice is done and such attacks against journalists don't appear. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely a very delicate and dangerous working environment, especially when we would expect an attack on journalists from many sources, but not girls in a school, you know.
Yes.
And so it's getting very easy now to attack a journalist and all that.
Well, that's quite a statement there. We'd expect an attack, but not from girls' school. It's an attack. It's an attack.
Yes.
That's it. Dr. Nancy, I mean, you said you actually know one of the journalists there. Your quick response to this, and whether we are overreacting every time one of us is touched, it's headlining news.
I don't think we are overreacting. I don't think the media is overreacting when one of those that is working in a media organization is attacked. I think one of the things that I must commend the media profession of fraternity this evening is that there has been, a clarion call. All media houses have come together, the different institutions have come together to condemn this act, which is unacceptable, is outrageous. It looks like a scene from a horror movie, just seeing what happened. And it's unfortunate that, the levels of intolerance are being seen, across all levels. It's not just the political elite. We've seen attacks on journalists across the counties. We've
Yes.
actually divulged the attacks on journalists. And now we are also seeing this, taking shape in the form that it did, earlier today. And, we shouldn't tire from, pointing out these ills when they happen. We should call them out for what they are, because if we don't, then, nobody will do that for us. I think oftentimes we have seen these attacks happen, but, nobody calls them out, as they are. So
And for what it is.
For what it is.
Yes.
So it's good that the media houses are coming together, the media institutions are coming together to condemn this act. And I'm hoping that in the coming days we will see action, real action being taken, against the perpetrators
Right.
of this act.
Right. Churchill, from your seat as a president of the Kenya Editors Guild, besides, the condemnation of this, there's also the part where we need to know whether, as journalists, we are well prepared in such situations if it comes our way, in terms of harm coming our way. If there are, and I've seen it being discussed in some of the groups that we are in, if there are some steps that we need to take to follow, to know what to do to secure ourselves.
A very important part of that issue, because as David and Dr. Book have mentioned, it's becoming such incidents are becoming too frequent from various corners of the country. And I do know that a few newsrooms in our country today, a few media houses have begun preparing the journalists, taking them through trainings, basically newsroom safety trainings, teaching them on how to cope with such situations.
Right.
It does not justify, it does not give anybody the right to then attack journalists because journalists are prepared. It only allows the journalists to sort of navigate and create a better chance to survive thereafter.
Yes.
But there are protocols that have been developed, especially under the Kenya Media Stakeholders Working Group. And through that, we are working with various newsrooms to make sure that the media managers are able to take care of the journalists in a fairly wholesome way, basically 3 dimensions. One, to allow them to know how to physically cope with those issues. Second one, very critical, is how to deal with the trauma that comes out of that, because at the end of the day, journalists are just human. Sometimes when they go through these experiences, some of us live for a very, very long time with those experiences, and many times previously, we haven't been able to take good care of those kind of cases.
Yes.
But I'm happy that increasingly we are getting better prepared for them.
All right. David, earlier I made the joke there of whether, you betrayed the profession. But of course, when you see this from wherever you're sitting, it must do something to you in terms of your reaction.
Well, first of all, Mark, there's no betrayal here. I mean, I'm serving the profession from a different standpoint, let me say. But with regard to this attack, I think it needs to be, just like my colleagues have said, seen in the context of any crime that may be happening in society today, and many are happening. I mean, assault and such attacks on people are all over the place, just as an attack on a child or an abduction or kidnap that we are reporting about every other day is reprehensible. So is an attack on a journalist. But the attack on a journalist takes on a higher plan because of the fact that you can almost equate it with an attack on a policeman.
Yes.
I mean, that is really, really gross. A journalist and a policeman are doing two things in the public interest at all times, or so it's presumed, unless they find themselves, involved in criminal activities. And so they need protection because of the nature of their work. And so I think that that incident needs to be condemned and should not be condoned at all. And as the DCI has said, we just hope that action is going to be taken to apprehend the criminals or the suspects and justice done to them.
Right.
It's more grave because it's offensive to the fundamental right of access to information that is realized through the work of journalists. And this freedom is so important that it's now in the Constitution protected. And those two things are protected: access to the information that the public needs to have, as well as the right of the media to actually carry out its work. So two articles of the Constitution have been violated grossly here, Article 34 and Article 35. And so it's a sad occasion.
Yeah.
But I mean, I take it that, this is part of the hazards of our job. We've been through it, we do it, we get attacked, and every job has its, threats. And so we must learn to live with those and get ourselves
Not
against
accepted,
them.
but
It's not accepted,
yes.
but it must be understood that it's within the context of what goes on and what is going on in society.
Yes, and many people are asking as well, as we were, reporting this, that I hope the journalists followed the due procedure in covering this story. It's something that you would definitely make sure was followed, whether, we were bombarding or barged our way into the institution without any clearance. And I think that's something you're looking into.
Yes, of course. So before I get that, I need to clarify. When I say that it is, we expect an attack on journalists. No attack is excused or expected.
Right.
But I imagine even if it was personal safety, a journalist going out and work, they would attack in a girls' school would be the least expected. You imagine there's someone going either to a county assembly or a political rally or some demonstration. So walking into a girls' school would be the least expected source of an attack and all that.
Yes.
Number two is that we have this unwritten protocol, of course. We are journalists from this media house. We are investigating the following. And usually, we have very many stories of either he refused to comment, or we were denied access, or we were locked out and all that.
Yes.
We have never gotten to the level of we were beaten, because a journalist can only ask questions. Mm-hmm. You can't do much. You can't force the person to speak, or you can't beat them up. Mm-hmm. So there isn't whether you followed protocol or not, which I think what is more protocol than going to ask do an interview in public interest, because they did not. I'm sure they did not attempt to break the gate. They did not attempt to do a roll call of the students or check the register and all that, because that's what we'll say now. They have stepped outside the norms of journalism.
Right.
They definitely asked questions and sought answers. So there is no opportunity of journalists, did not follow due process and all that. It wouldn't appear in this case,
yes,
unless we found a case that either there was already an active violence and then they jumped in and all that. Mm-hmm. So asking questions and shooting cameras without interfering with people's privacy cannot in any way be classified as intrusion into privacy.
And warrants such treatment and harassment of our journalists.
If I may.
Yes.
I think it's very important that we get it clear that even if, assuming that that team of journalists didn't follow certain procedures, nothing justifies the kind of bloody attack that we've seen from the photos we've seen and the torching of their vehicles. Nothing at all. Because any Kenyan who might feel at one point or another to be aggrieved by any journalist, there is recourse in law. There's due process in law that they can follow and make amends. We have the Complaints Commission, domiciled at the Media Council. If they choose, they can still go straight to the High Court or the Magistrates Courts and secure their justice. Nothing allows anybody to take the law into their own arms and fight journalists. Yeah.
With you on that, and that's our position here at Nation Media Group, as I'm sure from other media houses, Standard Media Group directly affected by this. But once one of us is touched, we are all touched, and it affects all of us. Unacceptable, and we certainly hope the DCI and other investigative arms will get to the bottom of this. And Conch David, as he follows the conversation, says journalism is a profession that ought to be respected and justice be served. To the KTN News journalists, it's an outrageous and unacceptable ordeal coming from students after incitement from seniors. So let me take a break at this point, and then we get back into the conversation of what the president was urging the Fourth Estate to focus on. More positive news than negative news, which it seems is what we are more onto and keen on getting, maybe to sell. You'll tell us. And yes, as you can see flashing under the screen there, many people also commenting that we're not live from that location. That is the Malik Heights engulfed in flames. And we do have some pictures. And this was in the last 1 hour. And yes, Malik Heights along Ngong Road on fire, and this broke out at least an hour ago, I'm told actually from 8 o'clock, and we're still trying to get to the bottom of it in terms of what happened. Emergency and rescue services are currently responding to fire that is gutting Malik Heights along that particular place, Ngong Road, and what we know so far is the fire said to have started at about 8 this morning. Witnesses reported hearing several explosions. One person is said to have been, this evening, beg your pardon, I said this evening, yes, it's 8 this evening that the fire is said to have started after several explosions. One person is said to have been injured, though not severely. There are no reports of other casualties, and the building hosts many businesses, among them a car dealership on the ground floor and restaurants. The cause of the fire that is said to have started on the first floor of the 9-story building is still unknown, but the emergency services have responded to this particular issue, and that is a fire at Malik Heights along Ngong Road, which houses several businesses, including restaurants, and it started on the first floor, not known what the cause was. And it also, this particular place also houses a car dealership, and many losses to this particular establishment and the different businesses there. And it started at around 8 in the evening, and after some explosions, several explosions, we won't run into conclusions as to what that was. People say they heard explosions, and we will be able to get more details on this story. I'm glad that the many people are actually commenting on this and talking about whether or not we're giving this the importance it deserves, and we are definitely. If we have any information, we'll give it to you. We'll take a break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.